Sega's blue mascot is no stranger to the genre of racing games. There's like a dozen of Sonic titles based around it, whether it's some in the Sega All-Stars series, the Sonic Riders games with their jetboards and rowdy birds, or the mainline ones like Sonic Team Racing and Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Really excited for that one. However, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, there weren't many racing titles to choose from in the franchise. Compared to their rival at the time, it seemed Mario was dominating the kart racing scene, a genre which clearly more benefited the speedy blue rat because running fast was his whole bread and butter. Advertisements don't lie, and Sega needed to catch up. Sonic 2 and 3 had a competition mode where you and a friend could race in either altered platforming stages or short looped courses, though they didn't offer much replayability unless you were like me and just enjoyed vibing to the music on your lonesome. There was the Sonic Drift duology, a genuine racing game involving the cast riding in vehicles, though they had their own problems and not just because they were Game Gear exclusive. And Sega's Radmobile for arcade systems certainly existed, although the most I can say about that was that there's a Sonic keychain hanging on the rear view mirror, the Hedgehog's first proper appearance before his own game came out. I looked it up. In my experiences growing up with a clunky Windows XP computer, there was only one game I owned featuring Sonic competing with others in a race. Released on the Sega Saturn and later on the PC, my first racing game starring the Blue Blur and friends was a quaint, polygonal-looking title simply named Sonic R. Charming yet haphazard is the thought that comes to mind when playing this game, even back then. I've fond memories of playing this, whether it's mucking about in 2-player mode with my sister and goofing about when booting it up on our dad's computer, or when I 100% completed it in Sonic Gems Collection. While experiencing it back in the early 2000s, I certainly felt the sunshine as a young Sonic enjoyer. Myself and others enjoyed it fine enough, even critics at the time were cool with the technopop soundtrack washing over the somewhat wonky control scheme. Though, come the 2010s, opinions generally shifted with the rise of online comedians and their skits and hot takes, which unfortunately affected the public opinion of games like Sonic R. I tell you, being a fan of Sonic Online began to feel like a thing to be embarrassed about. What the sus? I've personally never been one to fall to peer pressure involving video games, but considering this was the last Sonic game to come out on the Sega Saturn, I think it's worth going back to see how the Hedgehog's first 3D racing game holds up, examining the good and bad, the version differences, and what fans uncovered and since treasured, or, low-key feared. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, let's get supersonic racing! I don't think I can go into Sonic R without praising the progress of the video game compilation released roughly 3 months prior during the 32-bit age, something publicly touted as Phase 1 of Project Sonic, a little thing called Sonic Jam. Hey, I was meant to say that. With the working title of Sonic Ages, I've needed an excuse to talk about this one since the start, because not only did this compilation feature remakes of the original Mega Drive trilogy, plus the lock-on cartridge versions, all given new features like a time attack mode, easy mode, the spin dash in Sonic 1, and other updates, not only those charming illustrations from 90s calendars, but connecting it all was this fully 3D hub world. While confined to a small Green Hill-esque environment and technically considered a bonus feature, it was the main draw for fans. It was indeed a marvel, because holy crap, you could move Sonic around in fully 3D space. Not with an isometric view like Sonic 3D Blast or Sonic Labyrinth, an actual virtual playground with little optional challenges, museums to relax in during downtime after 2D platforming, and Tails is also here. It's not bad for a first attempt, even if sometimes it can be tricky to maneuver through tight platforming, but general reception to it had been nothing but positive. I'm pretty sure the fan-made Sonic Robo Blast 2, which started development and released the following year, was partially if not 100% inspired by what this 3D hub attempted. Also the unreleased Sonic Extreme. It was probably that. Sonic Jam was also the only thing where you could initially find Sonic the Animation, a 1.5-minute long short about Dr. Robotnik ruining Sonic's Man of the Year title. It's harmless with its use of early CGI backgrounds, and honestly, this style of Western cartoons rather suits the characters. It was produced by the combined efforts of Sega Software R&D Department 3 and TMS Entertainment, then known as Tokyo Movie Shinja. The way they were animated, I can certainly see the influence of other Warner Bros. Comedy cartoons TMS co-animated, like Animaniacs.
Wacko, what is the meaning of the word procrastination?
I'll tell you tomorrow.
I know that since the Sega Saturn was way more popular in Japan than the Mega Drive was, this compilation re-release was perhaps many a Japanese Sonic fan's introduction to the franchise. Just don't look for physical copies online, they are so expensive.
Robotnik's diabolical traps.
For such an unassumingly quaint racing title, would you believe that the development behind Sonic R was actually quite troubled? Knowing Sega's track record with other publishers at the time, especially considering on the Western side there was only one person fluent in both English and Japanese, I can't say I'm too surprised. Sonic R feels like a logical continuation of the 3D playground of Sonic Jam, though how it handled its gameplay I will save for a later segment. It was developed by Sonic Team and Traveller's Tales, a British software house who had perhaps the most adorable company logo ever illustrated. I won't bring up the logo overhauls. Stripped, simplified, and satirized to just TT. The team had previously collaborated with Sega to produce Sonic 3D Blast for the Sega Mega Drive, so, you know, they've been around the block a few times with the Blue Boy. They were quite skilled in constructing the game around the hot new console at the time, the Sega Saturn, as after all, the team had been working on a 3D graphics engine for a Formula 1 game, so all they really had to do was remodel it into one starring Sonic characters, though that was presumably because they were rushed. I've been mainly showing the 1997 prototype up until now, which is rather interesting. The character portraits are different, and the handful of finished tracks have, like, nearly double the number of Sonic tokens. I'm glad they reconsidered that, because good grief, imagine having to get all of these. Work was split between the collaborators. Sonic Team handled the maps of the racetracks, character model sheets, and the game's general feel, with Traveller's Tales handling programming, 3D modelling with the now discontinued graphic application Soft Image 3D, character animations, the custom game engine, and basically everything else. There was a tight schedule imposed on them by Sega, despite requests from Traveller's Tales to give them more time to cook. And working on a 3D game rather than a 2D one like their previous outing, yeah, production was bound to be slow, stressful, and incredibly limiting. With a deadline of only 6 bloody months, I do not envy the production side of things, but I do commend their efforts. Most praise has to go to founder and producer John Burton, whose track record includes design and directorial work on a lot of tie-in games, mainly LEGO ones. But gosh, the things he helped achieve on consoles back in the day is nothing short of incredible. It's thanks to this dude that the frame rate was consistent due to the use of a fading transparency effect for the draw distance, inspired by programming techniques used on the Nintendo 64, and the way environmental mapping was implemented to show reflections on objects, including the water reflecting the sky above. I'll say, you never saw stuff like this on 3D games at the time, at least not from Nintendo and the like. Shout out to his channels where he goes into more detail on how him and the team achieved what they did. There's a lot of Sonic 3D Blast stuff on there as well. Late in development, there was a bit of tension when the game was fine-tuned due to the lack of communication between both sides. Europe producer Kat Sato being forced to change the game design at the last minute due to technical and scheduling issues led to an argument with Yuji Naka that was so heated that the former wiped his name from the credits out of frustration. The original Sonic R for the Sega Saturn would come out first in North America on the 18th of November 1997, with a later release for Europe and Japan, with the PC port coming out the next year on November for the West and December for the East. It's the PC port I'll be covering for most of my video. I actually have the original version, which worked for Windows XP, but because it's a couple of generations old... oh bollocks. I used a fan patch to get it working properly. I'll be sure to call back to older footage on the original Saturn release whenever applicable. Also, you. Yes, you. If you're enjoying this kind of stuff and want to see more like it, please be sure to like, comment, and smash that subscribe button. It's a big help, and I appreciate your watching. There's no way I'll be able to talk about this story in any other part of this retrospective, so I'll mention it here. Yeah, believe it or not, this game does have a loose reasoning for this racing event occurring, detailed only in the original Saturn release. It's pretty much an excuse plot, but basically Sonic and Tails read about the Grand World Prix, which announces its recruitment of local racers. Sonic initially doesn't care, but as soon as he catches wind that Eggman is joining and that the whole thing is just an evil trap, as there are Chaos Emeralds supposedly hidden in the racetracks, the Hedgehog quickly changes his tune and is raring to go to stop his plan. Eggman's got his own minions partaking too, so Sonic not only has them to compete with, but his friends Tails, Knuckles and Amy Rose are also competing against him. And that's it. Go forth, go race, and go piss. Now that we're talking about the game proper, let's talk about the gameplay, because I feel like it. Being Sonic's first standalone game in the third dimension, Sonic R is also one of the more clunky ones. The title screen is particularly bare bones, being an edit of the game's cover art with some 3D text floating in sequence. I still kind of like it, however, and you can even somewhat control the rotation of the R. The polygon ceiling must have hit Sonic's head hard because in this third-person racing game you have buttons to accelerate, turn, do sick drifts, and put on the brakes. You can't fully turn around or backstep, the character just takes a dump instead if you hold the button down. The player character traverses this landscape as if they were a car, whether the character happens to be driving one or not. This was somewhat of a shock to remember, but yes, Sonic R has tank controls, meaning without planning ahead it can be very tricky to turn corners and collect things. To those unfamiliar, before characters could move in all directions suited to the camera angle, tank controls took on a more racing car approach, where you could move forward and sometimes backwards, but with the camera firmly in place, you could only turn to adjust the direction your character faces. Before leaps in technology, this was pretty standard at the time. Whether it was a shoot-'em-up, platformer, or exploration game, you saw this gameplay style left and right, and for the most part it worked. Just look at early Resident Evil and Tomb Raider games, with ones such as Crash Bandicoot and Super Mario 64 later breaking the mold to help usher in the more traditional free-roam controls. Anyway, the gameplay. The structure of every race is generally the same. Every course has 3 laps, and to continue in the Grand Prix you must finish in first, second or third place in each race. To best achieve this, you must master each racetrack, know its shortcuts, collect rings to spend on opening ring gates or the floating accelerators which warp you forward along the track, using up your current ring count as payment for how far it takes you, the maximum being 50 rings. I always enjoy the sound it makes and the little rainbow trail you leave behind when running at max speed. I can just make out that Sonic 3 sound effect in there too. Some characters also have the ability to spin attack and roll, though it doesn't seem to damage anything and is mainly used to go straight forward a little faster and get an extra boost of speed at the beginning countdown. Also, not all characters can jump, meaning they cannot cross paths on the road or use springs. Sorry, Amy. The computer player AI is relatively balanced, and I think usually only one opponent gave me trouble in every race. On the record, I set the difficulty to normal in the options because I wanted some challenge, and because on hard they are just unfairly quick. Like, look at poor Knuckles here. Sorry to use you as a guinea pig, buddy. Item panels float about specific spots on the racetrack, granting you a random power-up when you dash through them. These can range from extra rings, getting either 5, 10 or 20, Fleet Feet, which is basically a temporary speed up that lasts for a few seconds, Water Shield, which surrounds you in a bubble and will let you walk across water, vanishing after use, and Lightning Shield, everybody's favourite ring magnet if you want to swipe rings before your opponents get to them. It's rare though, like this is the only footage I have of it, and it wears off if you drop in water. In Grand Prix mode, there are additional objectives to get unlockable characters. One of those are the Sonic tokens, floating coins with the Hedgehog's face on them scattered about the maps. Every course has 5 of them, often found in really tucked away areas, and you need to collect them all and finish in the top 3 positions of the race. Doing this will pit you in a one-on-one against an unlockable racer, and beating them means you can play as them. Each map except for the final one has these challenges against opponents, and, you know, I may as well go into the different characters while I'm here. Obviously, you've got Sonic, easily one of the fastest racers, and comes equipped with a double jump. I guess Sonic Blast wasn't the only classic game with that ability. To balance his skills, his turning is slower. Tails has a lower top speed, but with his twin tails he can keep up with his hero, and is also better at turning around corners. He can also fly in the air for a short period of time, soaring in a straight line over the terrain. Knuckles is the well-balanced boy, not too fast, but also average at turning. He can't climb walls, but he does have a pretty nifty glide ability that keeps you in the air for a surprising length of time. Amy drives in an automobile, though notably not the same as Breeze in the Drift games. She's rather slow, but water is no inconvenience to her, and she can initiate a handy if hard to steer turbo blast to catch up. It doesn't even cost rings, it just has a 10-second long cooldown, though it's useless when over water. Dr. Eggman is here, riding in an Eggmobile reminiscent of the one from the first Sonic game, but with a missile held below. Unlocked after finishing the credits, he has low speed and no grip, but he makes up for that by being easier to steer and accelerate, hovering over water, and coming equipped with a homing missile launcher that can lightly trip up other racers, costing 10 rings to fire. Of the unlockable racers, there's Metal Sonic, who plays like Sonic on crack. He's even faster than his counterpart and is also harder to steer. He can't double jump, only really hopping spread-eagled, but because he technically floats, he doesn't immediately sink into the water when hovering over it. Tails Doll, an unsettling stuffed toy presumably made to mock Sonic's sidekick. While quite slow due to being a lightweight plushie, it levitates along the track and ignores water entirely. Instead of jumping, it just creepily wheels itself upward into the sky. I think this was the character I enjoyed most when playing it as a kid, despite him basically being a joke character. Egg Robo, called Eggman Robo here, which is closer to its Japanese name. Returning from Sonic & Knuckles, it's slow and doesn't have much of a tolerance to water hazards, but it can turn corners better than any other racer in the game, and also shares its creator's method of firing missiles at racers, also at the cost of 10 rings. Metal Knuckles. Golly, if you thought the regular Echidna was a powerhouse, check this guy out. He's fast and has a similar jump to Metal Sonic, is the second fastest racer in the game, and also doesn't drown immediately. Probably the hardest to unlock because he knows like every single shortcut in the track you race him in. I've lost to him more times than I care to admit. The last unlockable character is Super Sonic, achieved when you collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds across the first 4 tracks, and finish in first place each time. Don't ask why they're the size of the Master Emerald. And make sure you actually win in first place after you pick them up, because if you don't, the game straight up blue balls you and dangles the missed emeralds in your face before booting you back to the menu. What's chic? You can play as him by pressing down on Sonic's portrait to toggle between them, and he essentially acts as an entirely separate character. Unlike the other racers, you can have both him and regular Sonic in the same race at once. More like super broken. He has the best top speed, handling, the double jump ability, and can float nonchalantly over water hazards. Though notably no spin dash ability, but that would just make him more overpowered. Woe the poor souls who have to race against him. It's me, I am Souls. Unlocking other racers also gradually has them replace the others in Grand Prix mode too, although not in this version, which is a bit of a shame as it restricts the variety in opponents. Like, at least Sonic Drift 2 let you pick the computer players, or just randomize them. Another problem is that the unlockable characters basically outclass every other one previously in terms of stats. Especially Super Sonic. They couldn't have given him at least one drawback. God damn it! Screw you, you golden sod! Due to the rushed production, the game only includes 4 courses to race in, with one unlockable one after you reach first place in the others in Grand Prix mode. The name of each map begins with the letter R, to channel the letter in the title, and are as follows. Resort Island is the first and simplest track, a tropical area with lots of trees, flickies flying in the air, and ruins. Can you feel the sunshine? It depends on the weather. There's Radical City, a cold highway with winding roads and construction areas, and also a casino segment, though it's just for show, you can't gamble here. Regal Ruin has a lot of explorable tunnels and big open stretches with Echidna Sphinx statues. There's also both Sonic and Eggman chiseled in the stone. Reactive Factory is Eggman's island fortress, or an automated factory from the future according to the American manual, though what future harvests and processes coloured feces? The biggest and trickiest to complete out of all the others, and has my favourite music in the game. And lastly, Radiant Emerald, the equivalent of Mario Kart's Rainbow Road. Floating in space, made entirely out of multicoloured crystals, is more of a victory lap for when your racer reaches the last course in Grand Prix, especially if you play as Super Sonic. Fun fact, in all versions after the PC port, the textures of the ground are solid, dark, and constantly shift between different colours, less so in the version I'm playing. Whereas in the original Saturn release, it's mostly glossy lilac tones, and the slight transparency effect and low draw distance better show the interstellar background. I do wonder if the team were just copying Mario Kart's homework. There are other modes other than Grand Prix included under the Time Attack banner. Firstly, there's just normal Time Attack. Honestly, this racing game would be incomplete without it. Good for trying to outdo your own score as you race on your own and familiarise yourself with the maps. Reverse has the courses played backwards, with you racing in the opposite direction, as the name implies. About as mind-bending as mirror mode you see in later racing games afterwards. It's fun, but really messes with you sometimes. Balloon has you find and pop different coloured balloons around the maps, which were all one colour in the Saturn version. A nice change of pace from the standard racing gameplay, though good grief, go easy on yourself if you decide Radiant Emerald as your choice of map. They really tuck these buggers away here. And Tag Battle, another mildly fun side game where instead of sprinting across the track to 3 laps, you play a game of tag against 4 computer-controlled racers. Can be a little hard due to their varying hitboxes though. God, Sonic, how did you avoid that? I'm coming for you, Gnuck-Heels. Become a robot like me! Touch each of the racers and watch them slump over in defeat. Oh cripes, I think I gave him a heart attack. There is also a multiplayer version of normal racing and balloon mode with up to 1 or 3 extra players, found in the icon with Sonic and Knuckles looking like they're about to make out. Truly enemies to lovers, though missed opportunity that there's no tag battle feature for this. While I'm still in high spirits, let's talk about the thing people frequently talk about Sonic R. Its music. Yes, this specifically is what peeps most know about the game, except for maybe the peculiar controls. The soundtrack was, like Sonic 3D Blast before it, done by frequent Sega composer Richard Jacuz. Not counting instrumental variants, the number of different songs in this game can be counted on both hands, but the ones included and often on the forefront of discussion are those with vocal performances. Before this game, the Sonic series has had vocal themes, though not as much during gameplay itself, unless you want to count the vocal hymns in the US soundtrack for Sonic CD, but I suppose Sonic R is the first to have stages where you play and listen to songs with lyrics. And while somewhat contentious, to me they are honestly a joy to listen to, in and out of game. TJ Davis sings them with such passion and conviction, it's hard for me not to appreciate her soulful performance. For these tracks, British singer and vocalist TJ Davis was brought in, as Jacuz was a frequent collaborator with her. I'm not, as they say, a song guy, but I do know she was a member of ABBA tribute group Bjorn Again, if that's anything to go by, and she does think relatively positively to her work in Sonic R, so much so she appeared in the Sonic Symphony World Tour in 2024 to perform some of their songs, and the crowd ate that stuff up, singing every single lyric along with her. So I'm fairly certain the 90s synth pop soundtrack has since been vindicated. Was also surprising hearing voice clips from her at the beginning of replays though.
At the end of the day, it's a race of 3 laps. Let's watch that one again.
Hell yeah, Miss Davis. Wanna watch me fall in the water? While personally I really enjoy the melodies and cheekily upbeat and semi-romantic lyrics, they do border on love song territory at times. I'm aware it's not everyone's cup of tea. I recall, especially in the 2010s, a vocal minority specified their problems with the tonal dissonance between the Eurosynth-esque music and the high-energy, high-adrenaline racing gameplay, though since then that crowd has quietened, possibly from realising that Sonic R is just a simple, cheerful racing game, and not like God of War. What the heck, guys? But if you don't enjoy the lyrics and think they're unfitting, there's always an option to have the maps play instrumental versions instead. I'm equal-minded in this, as I also enjoy the drifting funk and retro 90s beats even without the lyrics. Work It Out is perhaps my favourite in the entire soundtrack. It's just so radical and really gets you pumping. Perhaps it's just my tastes. As well as the Genesis twangs, I did grow up mainly with Jacuzzi's disco-adjacent musical aesthetic of this game, and also Sonic 3D Blast's port. This kind of funk just has a special place in my heart, and I'm fairly certain other fans who grew up with the game feel the same. The other music tracks are fine enough. I do dig the main menu having this chill background tune, and I like the remix of the Act Clear jingle from the classic games. I can never hear this enough. And of course, I can't brush over the fact that the track Supersonic Racing exists. Not only is it iconic and admittedly corny, part of the lyrics are just the word everybody repeated 11 times in a row, but a simpler version greets you on the title screen, and the full version always triumphantly blares out when playing as Supersonic, specifically on the Radiant Emerald course, replacing Diamond in the Sky. It honestly makes for the most cathartic ending lap when you manage to get 100% in the game with Mr. Broken here. Don't look at me like that. It's also been remixed a bunch. In Sonic Generations, it got a Cash remixed over a decade after Sonic R released. Not quite my genre of choice, but I like the use of autotune. In terms of sound design, however, I'd say that they kind of fumbled. Most of the sound effects were borrowed from Sonic Jam, which in turn were lower quality soundbites ripped from the Mega Drive games, and they are loud and repetitive, just not easy on the ears. Tails' flying noise went from a soft flapping sound to whatever this is. The way the ring collect sound overlaps is somehow more ear-grating than the 8-bit games. Anything with an engine purrs loudly and is often louder than the music, forcing you to adjust it in settings if you want to actually hear it. And the footstep noises are a tad too deafening for something most of the characters produce frequently. It's like they're walking with boots made of lead. And while I'm on this talk about things that felt underwhelming, let's take a quick detour and talk about the game's graphics, both good and bad. Honestly, for the original Sega Saturn, the graphics aren't bad. If you enjoy that retro 3D look with the polygonal models, you'll enjoy their look in this game. I especially love the hand-painted backgrounds, appearing almost like vast looping tapestries, though it is extremely noticeable that the courses often have endless oceans in the distance, meaning each map is kind of just a secluded island in the middle of nowhere, like they were shown in those rendered pictures. Which are neat, by the way, it must be said. Maybe this too is part of Dr. Eggman's plot, as the Grand Prix is surrounded by Sonic's most hated element and all of his robots have some sort of hovering maneuver. It's genius. Unintentionally genius. I know it's often a gameplay thing, but I really enjoy the daytime effects, as well as the different weather added in the PC port. Not only do they help provide some visual differences for repeated playthroughs, seriously, adding rain and thunderstorms to Radical City with this kind of somber music is like, oh, it's so fitting. And the snowy weather makes all instances of water freeze up, making them perfectly safe to walk across. It's neat, and the background art and objects also have snow on them. Too bad the computer players don't perceive it, though it's probably for the best. Nobody here knows you can run on ice. Always enjoyed these. What I don't quite enjoy are the character models themselves. There's a distinct lack of emoting except for their default expressions, in their idle poses, as their win or lose animations are certainly quite stilted. There are clearly less polygons on display. Eggman's face and moustache are one combined flat object, characters' arms are notably interconnected twigs, and there are plenty of screens that show off the roughness of these models, including in the rendered unmodified models in the end cards before the credits. Those sharp edges, frankly, better suit the robot characters, and gosh, I really like the design of Metal Knuckles in particular, a fan favourite with its giant shovel claws, and the way it and Metal Sonic's eyes occasionally flash green. And Tails' doll looks pristine, the low polygon count adding to its creepiness. And speaking of Tails' doll and the like, I think it's a good time I stop thinking of the past, and finish off this video with talk on how Sonic R is remembered in the present. As the only Sonic game on the Saturn that wasn't a touched-up port or compilation, at the time of release, thoughts on the game were somewhat mixed. I believe in gaming magazines, the graphics, racetracks and frame rate were praised, as was the lush texture quality despite the graphical pop-up, some even saying it was a better game than Nintendo's Mario Kart 64 at the time. Which, I believe the PC port basked in some positive praise. though both versions were criticised for the stark lack of race courses, and that the game could easily be cleared in about an hour. Nowadays, I suppose there really isn't much need for players to return to Sonic R, especially with the increasingly negative viewpoint upon it as that game where you drive running characters. The game's available in Sega PC packs and Sonic Gems collection, but even if you didn't care for the gameplay and only enjoy the soundtrack on its own, you could easily just buy the Sonic CD album, or better yet, just listen to the OST online. Sega themselves had reminisced on this game in low-key shame, even if the final release was considered decent by Japanese and Western members of the team, and to this day, Sega hasn't released any other racing titles where the characters race on foot, unless it's mobile games. Supposedly, according to the company, fans requesting that there be a continuation to Sonic R was what inspired Sega to look back and revisit the style with the Sonic Riders series. And without Sonic R, it's not a reach to say that the various kart games released after wouldn't exist without this one setting the stage, so to speak. They like to reference the R in the typography of the title, so its legacy certainly lives on artistically. Among the fandom, Sonic R is also well known for introducing fan-favourite antagonists in the form of Tails Doll and Metal Knuckles. Both garnered positive feedback for their designs, appearing in comic books by Archie Comics and IDW Publishing, and the former character I recall having a specific impact on the creepypasta crowd. As a brief explanation, creepypastas are horror stories copied and pasted across the internet, either in the form of images or cryptically written works. Internet-cultivated urban legends, basically. Ever heard of the Tails Doll curse? Back in the day, this was essentially the millennials' answer to Sonic EXE, being a creepy figure made up by fans to be a malevolent, interdimensional entity mimicking a video game character and, stealing your soul from the haunted video game cartridges.
Yay! Oh, hi! I am God. You might want to brush your teeth there, God.
Maybe that's why sometimes when you open the game, there's no music and everything is mysteriously crossed out. Not really. That only happens when you don't have the game's CD in the drive. Surprisingly, this fan outlook on the Tails Doll character seeped into its appearance in comic material too, and trust me, the writers knew of this guy's online reputation. First appearing in Archie Sonic No. 231, it acted more as a stealth operative, being picked up unwittingly by Cream the Rabbit, being used to sneak into vents and breach the hero's aircraft, and in both the original and the reboot, having a powered-up monster form in case things go south. I think they kind of went overboard with that one. And of course, Tails Doll appears alongside the other robots in IDW's 30th anniversary special one-shot, where it continues to be Eggman's creepy stuffed animal. Tails does not approve of it. Metal Knuckles would also appear in print form, from Sonic the Comic having a Knuckles Metallics as an antagonist in Sonic the Comic 108. Archie Comics had it as a semi-regular Eggman enforcer, first appearing alongside the others in the Metal series in Sonic Universe 37. It would end up possessed by the plot MacGuffin, the Krudzu. And lastly, IDW's one-shot, where it more closely resembles its Sonic R model with metallic dreadlocks. The fans have made their own spin on the original game, most of which are in concept only, but I discovered some gems. The one you're watching now is Sonic Redux, one of the first ever Sonic R mods, which omits the draw distance and replaces some of the characters. Hey, Fang the Sniper is here. Apart from the previously mentioned fan patch, one notable fan game is the prototype Sonic Battle R, an online multiplayer flavoured thing where you and 7 others hectically race to the end of courses ripped from several different 3D titles. It's wonderfully chaotic, and the compatibility of the gameplay with the map design varies because not all of them were really made with fast-paced multiplayer action in mind, and the camera can be incredibly jank at times, but I honestly admire the whole thing. It's got its own active community around it, so I'll certainly keep an eye on it. Sonic Recharged is another one, released in 2023, which is basically the entire game remade in Roblox. You know, the game where this sound effect came from. It's like if Sonic Jam and Sonic R had a baby, with character models from the former, and like a hazy mist effect to emulate the original draw distance. It plays near identically too, though the turning is different, and the camera also needs to be adjusted manually, but I imagine that's just because of the Roblox engine, so you can't fix that. And I love the blurry zoom effect when you use the accelerators. The fact that peeps would up and remake Sonic R near perfectly on an online gaming creation platform probably speaks volumes about how passionate fans still are about this game, and honestly this is the best way to play if you want a multiplayer Sonic R experience. My final thoughts on this game are that, well, it's certainly a fun, colourful time capsule of early 3D gameplay. With a cheesy yet blissfully upbeat soundtrack and simple yet enjoyably blocky maps, I can say it's always a good time picking up and playing it. That said, I also hadn't felt the need to pop it in since my GameCube days, considering there's better, easier accessed Sonic racing games now. So I'm kind of torn with Sonic R. Maybe it really is best preserved in like a museum, observed and picked up by peeps intrigued by 3D games of the pre-Sonic Adventure era. Because at the end of the day, it is fun, yet the gameplay is repetitive and clearly a product of its time. I suppose I appreciate it for what it added, rather than the semi-finished video game it ended up being. For the rank, I suppose I'll slip it into the D level. It's not bad, but not something I'd sit down and play again, though I for sure understand its lasting appeal with its soundtrack. And so, what's the next video? Well, I'm not sure. As much as I'd love to continue this series of retrospectives uninterrupted and just be known as the Sonic guy, I did name myself RobotnikHolmes after all, there are other games, other genres I'd like to cover in the future. I do want to update everyone on what stuff I plan to cover, so look out for that. Thank you ever so much for watching, if indeed you still are, and I'll see you in the next video.